So what is gerrymandering? Gerrymandering is the way in which states decide on how they redesign their voting districts. And this one for Virginia, there's a whole history behind it, but we'll go to the most recent one. Back in 2020, you had Virginia passed not just a statute, but a constitutional amendment where it said
their state constitution.
The state constitution, yes. Virginia's Commonwealth's constitution, that they passed a constitutional amendment, and they said that the redistricting could only occur every 10 years after a census was done, and it was that it would be solely done by this redistricting committee, where before you would have the legislature get involved in it, and they would cut it up based upon basically political whims, based upon whatever the party in power wanted at the time. And to try and make this apolitical, that they created this redistricting committee by a constitutional amendment. And so it took politics out of it. But wait, did it?
Did it really?
As we all know, elections have consequences. So in the most recent election, that you had Governor Spanberger decide that they didn't like this because they saw what was going on in Texas. They saw what was going on around in California and in other states. And so they decided
other gerrymandering efforts.
Right. That Texas, and it all started out with Texas, which we'll get to in a second, where Texas basically redistricted themselves and designed it so to give the Republicans a distinct advantage within the state. Whether or not you agree with it or not, whether or not, I could say as a conservative Republican, which, come at me if you want, but that's who I am, that yes, that it's helpful for the Republican Party, but as far as looking for what's good for the country, breaking it up that way isn't good. I don't believe in gerrymandering simply to achieve a political goal. That it should be done based upon the census and based upon the changes of the population within the state. Regardless, that's not up to Lou or Rob or any of us here. It was up to Texas, and they did it. They started it first and redistricted. And that was challenged. And the Supreme Court actually came down with a decision, which we'll be discussing shortly, where they actually upheld the redistricting and shot down a lower court, a circuit court's decision holding up the redistricting until after the elections. So what do we have here? So in Virginia, what happened is they ended up pushing through basically a new amendment where they realized that they could not revoke a constitutional amendment, or to do that would have been extraordinary. So they phrased it in a way where they amended the recently passed amendment. And the language that they use is that they included inside there, we will allow for the next 5 years the ability to redistrict outside the decade, every 10 years, the decennial period, in order to ensure fair governance or ensure fairness. And that's the phrase that is the most important thing here.
If I can stop you right there for a second, Lou. Yep. Now, for people who don't know, and I've been watching this throughout the month, Virginia is relatively a purple state. It's not red nor blue. It's a hybrid, and it shows in the last electoral college election, presidential election. I think there are 10 different districts, or 11. I think 11. There were 6 that went Democrat and 5 Republican, or what others. It was just even. And the way that every rendering that I've seen with this gerrymandering effort would have made it 10-1 in favor of the Democrats.
Right.
Supposedly.
Exactly. Anyway. Exactly. So the map was redrawn back in 2020, and it created the districts where it's basically a 6-5 type of thing. 6 favoring the Democrats. I mean, 6 favoring, it was actually 6 favoring Democrats, 5 favoring Republicans. So the Democrats already had a distinct advantage there. What this new map does, based upon the referendum that was put forward, well, I'll have to be clear on this, that the referendum did not approve the map as proposed. It approved the constitutional amendment. And the key language, like I said before, is that it is redistricting process, that it was adopt new congressional districts, so it doesn't affect the state elections, which is significant as well, but creates new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming elections. So that is, so you have it specifically pointed for just the next congressional and presidential elections coming up. Not anything else, just these two specific elections, which has a significant issue. So anyway, it went for a referendum that the voters in Virginia passed the referendum by a narrow vote. I think that the final tally, because at one point it was like a 50.1 to 48.2 to somewhere along those lines. And it was razor thin. Out of 3 million votes that came in, it came down to a vote like 90,000 votes, less than 90,000 votes. In counting them, that's significant. So what ended up happening is that the Republican Party, the Republican National Committee, previously filed lawsuit within the state of Virginia. And then you had different rulings on the trial court level, where you had judges that were granting injunctions and not granting injunctions. And the Supreme Court of Virginia stepped in and said, hold it. We are going to allow this election. We are going to allow this vote to go forward, because the whole thing was whether or not the vote should even go forward based upon procedural rules. And the Supreme Court of Virginia said, hold off. We're going to allow this referendum to go forward. And then after the referendum goes forward, then we're going to decide. And it was sort of pragmatic, where they were going to say, okay, look, if the referendum didn't pass, then RNC, your point, then it's a moot point because it didn't pass. And then it would be up to now the Democrats to say that, find some claim saying that the voting process was invalid. Regardless, it passes. So now we're in court, and you had one of the judges that was holding off his decision, because he was directed to hold it off until after the referendum. As soon as the referendum was finalized and certified, he came in and said, okay, nope, I'm not going to allow this to go forward. We're not going to allow the voting to be certified. We're not going to allow the redistricting to begin because of these grounds. One of the things that's important is that it was decided not on 14th Amendment issues, which most claims come up under, but it came up under procedural state constitutional and state legislative procedural issues, which is a significant issue.
Shut up and sit down.
Thanks for listening to The Republic, If You Can Keep It podcast. Join Rob and Lou in our next episode as we continue our riveting discussions on the most important topics affecting our great republic. Drop a line for topics you want to discuss, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time.